Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this episode, I talked to Diksha Agarwal about mechanical engineering.
Hi, Diksha. Thank you so much for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello, Mr. Ramakrishnan. Thank you for having me. I am doing great. And what about you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Can you tell us a bit about your background, where you're from, etc.?
I am from northeast of India, Tinsukia, a small town in Assam. So I completed my early education there only, which laid the foundation for my academic journey. Later then I pursued my passion for engineering from Assam Engineering College, Guwahati, again Assam. So I did my engineering in mechanical field, which is conventionally a field for the male. But being a girl, choosing mechanical engineering was not the typical path expected of me. So, however, I was determined to follow my interest and my passion. One thing I strongly believe that passion and perseverance are not defined by gender. And today I'm proudly contributing to a field that challenges me and excites me every day.
Okay, what motivated you to select mechanical engineering?
So it was my fascination with cars and machines, which started at a young age. I was actually very curious always about how cars functioned, mechanism, the science behind their movement, and the engineering that made it all work seamlessly. So I would often find myself in thoughts about like how these machines were designed or how they're operated. So this natural curiosity actually slowly and gradually developed into a passion for understanding machines and system on a deeper level. So I thought that mechanical engineering is the perfect pathway for me to explore and nurture this interest because this will directly relate me to the designing, the mechanism, and the operations of machines and cars. So it was not just about pursuing a degree, it was about moreover immersing myself in a field that actually combines creativity, real world problem solving, and innovations to build solutions that actually drives the world forward.
Okay, great. From your LinkedIn profile, I see that you are good at impact analysis. So, can you describe how do you conduct impact analysis for a maintenance related issue?
We do a planning for 7 days. We are doing maintenance for the people who are actually driving the machines, like the production department. We are maintenance force people. So what we do in the impact analysis that we sit or we all sit together, we understand if there are any problems or if any machine requires any kind of attention or if there is any issue with a machine. We discuss about different kinds of problems and what needs our attention. So we actually jot down those points in a file. So those activities which we jot down in the file or what we note down in the file, we ensure to take those jobs related to those problems of those different kinds of machines in the coming week. So it's kind of a planning process. So in impact we do that planning. We together sit and ensure that all the machines and all the equipments gets our attention and all the problems are solved. Basically impact is a way we can say a preventive maintenance kind. Like in engineering we study different kinds of maintenance: preventive maintenance, breakdown maintenance, predictive maintenance. So impact is actually a step which we take forward to ensure the minimal breakdown and operational efficiency.
Okay, great. What kind of skills are required to significantly improve operational efficiency of the machines?
We need to be aware of the mechanism of the machine we are dealing with. We need to know the manpower handling, make people work for us. So that is another thing which is needed. The next and very much important is inventory management, or rather spare management, to deal with any kind of jobs or to be prepared for any kind of breakdown. We must have the spares and inventories with us. So for that a proper planning is required. Like we can't have bulk of spares with us because that is another problem of preservation of spares. So we have to make sure that we have the required spares for the breakdown, and which is not less, that will be a problem when there is a breakdown. So it is like one of the most important part for a maintenance engineer to have a good knowledge of inventory and spare management. And another skill which is required is a computerized maintenance management system. So it helps us to streamline our maintenance scheduling, track inventory, and manage work orders. So one of the example is SAP, which is like worldwide used computerized management system. So it actually helps and makes it easier to plan and execute preventive maintenance and or other different kinds of maintenance. And it also provide us insights about the performance of equipment, helping us make data driven decisions. Other skills are like adaptability. We need to be keeping up with the latest tools, technologies, and best practices in maintenance. We have to be good with planning and organizing. We should be very much aware of our work, and we have to be properly scheduling those work. Another is skill which I would like to mention is budgeting, because we can't just procure anything without knowing about the budget. Another one I would like to mention is like, which is important, and it's like the mantra with which we work is like safety. Working with safety is a skill which is actually the first step of any manufacturing unit. It's the most important skill a person needs to have in them.
Okay, great. How do you stay updated with the latest trends and technologies in mechanical engineering?
So basically, I try to read about in internet. I do a lot of surfing related to my field, and I do research work. Sometimes I read research papers.
Okay, great. What are the key performance indicators you consider when measuring the success of a maintenance program?
Three things: P1, P2, P3 jobs. P1 is for unplanned jobs, P2 is scheduled breaker jobs, P3 is planned jobs. So whenever we just like I've mentioned about the impact analysis, we plan all the jobs. So it comes under P3, planned jobs. So we can have unplanned jobs also. So when it comes to unplanned jobs without production loss, then we call it a P2 or schedule breaker. Then we have P1, which is an unplanned job but with production loss. Then other key performance indicators are maintenance efficiency, like MTBF, which is very much important, mean time between failures. It actually measures the average time piece of equipment operates without failure. We have another one, mean time to repair, that is MTTR. It tracks the average time it takes to repair equipment. And as I've said already about P1, P2, P3, like planned, unplanned, and schedule breaker jobs, these were for the maintenance efficiency. The three things I've told, that MTBF, MTTR, and P1, P2, P3. This key performance indicators are maintenance efficiency. Next, we have equipment performance, which is overall equipment effectiveness, OEE. It actually measures how well equipment performs relative to its full potential. So the components availability, performance, and quality is determined by overall equipment effectiveness. Then we have equipment downtime, again under equipment performance. So it helps us to track the total time equipment is unavailable due to maintenance or failures. Then we have cost management, work management, and safety and compliance, asset reliability, customer satisfaction, these kinds of key performance indicators. But majorly, like I've mentioned, maintenance efficiency and equipment performance are the key performance indicators which we measure here.
Okay, great. So when you talked about MTTR and MTBF, is this applicable for all P1, P2, and P3 or just for some categories?
No, it is applicable for P1, P2, P3. It's just that the meaning changes, like when it comes to unplanned jobs, how we have not done the proper maintenance, or why we were not able to predict it, or why we were not able to prevent it. So the meaning changes, but it is applicable to all P1, P2, P3.
Okay, great. Thank you for all the details. And I have a couple of follow-up questions on real-time challenges in maintenance project. Can you describe a situation where you led a team through a challenging maintenance project?
The real time challenges comes since it's we have a production plant, so we need the machines to be running with its full capacity and up once 100% productivity. But there are times when it's a machine which requires maintenance and it come at any time. So there was a time when it was a breakdown, as I have mentioned, a unplanned breakdown with production loss. We had to do our job with complete dedication, with complete safety, and following all the protocols of a manufacturing plant. We had to complete the job within time so that we can prevent the production loss. It was something at odd time job, so I had to be there at for that job. I had to ensure the people are there on time. I had to make sure that all people are working efficiently during that time. So this was there was an incident, there was a time when this breakdown came and there was a production loss. I had a pressure about putting the job and completing the job on time so that we can minimize the loss. So it was a challenge, was obviously time constraint. One another challenge was to identify the root cause for the breakdown, so that took us time to diagnose the failure, and it actually required extensive troubleshooting to identify the root cause. And after identifying, we had to coordinate to make sure that to have the availability of that spare part. We were also concerned about the safety, that we can't compromise safety, and as I've mentioned, the pressure was also there. So the quick steps, as I've told, that we quickly troubleshooted the problem and we fixed it. And later on, we had also ensured to not get these kind of problem again. Some preventive measures like taking a daily round of the equipments which are critical.
Okay, thank you so much for those details. What aspect of mechanical engineering are you most passionate about?
I'm able to deal with the real life problems. So that is one thing which is driving me. So the problem solving and the innovation is something which inspires me.
Okay, thank you. Now let's talk about your hobbies and interests apart from work. What do you do for fun?
I'm passionate about traveling and love exploring new places, especially immersing myself in different unique cultures and trying local foods. It's actually always exciting me to discover new flavors and traditions wherever I go. I also enjoy binge watching shows. It's a perfect way for me to unwind and relax after a busy day. Additionally, I enjoy playing sports. It helps me stay active. These hobbies actually maintain a healthy balance between my work and personal life. I am also very much passionate about cricket, a big cricket fan. Following the game is like more than just a time pass for me. I love watching live matches, analyzing strategies, or cheering. So, cricket is something which I enjoy. And also, recently, I started reading books on personal development and leadership. So, these are few things which I do as my pastime.
Okay, great, wonderful. What are the societal issues that you care about and what do you do about them?
I really want to challenge or I care about is that women are not seen as primary breadwinners or providers. Like, we have come a long way, but still, women are not considered as providers. They're still considered as caregivers. I have personally experienced this. Whenever a woman pursues her passion or takes up a job, it is sometimes dismissed as a hobby or something like she's doing just to pass time for some part of her years. Enduring perception that her role or purpose or her passion or her job is limited to the home and caregivers, and the career or ambitions aren't as important or as essential to those of men. This is something I deeply feel needs to be changed, and this is one societal norm I really think should be challenged, because women have the same capabilities and the potential to be successful and contribute in any field they choose. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be a homemaker. I'm just saying that they can contribute in any field they choose, but just they need to be considered up equally providers and breadwinners. So this is one thing I would like to challenge or change. On a personal level, I can continue to challenge stereotypes by breaking free from that idea that women need to fit into a certain mold, whether it's being vocal about my career ambition or celebrating others women's success. I just want to help and shift the narrative so that women are seen as equal contributors, by setting my own example, whether in the home, workplace, or leadership. So I ultimately believe that changes begins with small and consistent actions. If any person takes inspiration from me, like what I am doing, they can continue to follow their passion. I'm always up for any kind of help. I'm mostly available on a different kind of social media networking sites like LinkedIn or any other site. Actually, it's not just about personal success, it's about creating an environment where others, especially women, feel encouraged and supported to chase their dreams without limitation. So I actively mentor and guide women and anyone who just starting out in their careers, especially in fields like engineering or industries traditionally dominated by men.
Okay, that's great. So we are coming to the end of the podcast. Do you have any questions for me?
If any of your listeners or your viewers have ever mentioned you that your stories has inspired them, and I really think that it's very inspiring for me. So have you also got those kinds of comments from your listeners or whoever were there with you?
Okay, so the podcast stories, a lot of people have mentioned, especially the guests have mentioned that they have felt the change after listening to some of the podcasts. Many of them have shared it with me. I asked them what kind of changes. I don't feel like, there is much change that these podcasts are making. I'm not in the mission to change the world. That's what I told them, but they still say that, after listening to the podcast, I feel a lot of change in myself and I'm trying to change myself and things like that. So that kind of feedback and comments come. Yes.
So, how do you feel about it? Like, if you're having an impact on a person who is like listening to you and it is creating a positive impact on them, so how does it thrive you to do more such kind of podcasts or more such kind of stories, or what do you feel actually about it?
So I feel good for them because it's creating a positive impact for them, which is great. As far as the podcast is concerned, we'll be doing the same thing in the future.
Thank you so much. I'll be looking forward to more stories brought by you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for spending time with us in the podcast. I wish you all the best in your career as well as whatever you aspire to do in your life. Take care and bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
That was a great podcast with Diksha Agarwal. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.